On. I am your host, Johnny Stokes, and alongside me, as always, is from FlameStation.ca, Robert Munich. Robert, how are we today?
It's snowing like hell here in Calgary, so that kind of sucks. And then when it comes to the podcast today, I mean, we have nothing really to talk about. I mean, there's nothing going on with the Calgary Flames right now, so it might be a short episode.
Thanks everyone for coming out. Enjoy the hockey this week. Road trip starts for the Flames, and we'll see you next week, I guess is the show today.
Pretty much.
Of course, we joke in jest because, well, it's been very, very noisy around the Calgary Flames. Despite what they've done on the ice, off the ice is almost a disaster, some would say. There's lots of thoughts on social media, both on the good side, the bad side. There's lots of individual thoughts being put out there in DMs to me. I don't know about you, Robert. I got a lot of DMs and things. People trying to talk to me about it. I've gotten people at work asking me about what's going on with the Flames. So lots going on around the Flames, kind of taking away from their recent little bit of success they've had here, which we will try to get into in this episode, Robert, a little bit later. But let's start with what was happening last week that kicked off all of this. Well, I don't want to say debate or whatever it was, but
shitstorm.
That's a great word for it. I was trying to be family friendly here about that, but yeah, there's really no other way to put it. Don Maloney stepped in front of a microphone and a camera for some reason, and decided to give almost a State of the Union type of interview to Brendan Parker. And Parks did a really good job, I thought, of the interview. It felt like maybe he was handcuffed in what he was allowed to ask about in that interview. I thought the Flames really tried to control the narrative in that interview, which is fine. Teams like to do that. Teams like to have things put out there on their timeline under their conditions. So whatever, it is what it is. But even giving all of that, Don Maloney decided he was going to double down on some things that we know the fan base doesn't like, not give the answers to certain questions straight up. Like he was avoiding some other discussions. Like when asked about Craig Conroy and his contract, he danced around that one like an executive, you would expect an executive to try to do. And then his messaging came out, and you're like, what are we doing here, Don? What are we talking about here? Off to, at the time, it was they were 32nd in the league, 20 games into the season, sitting bottom of the league, 30-second power play, and they're talking about it's off to a rough start, but there's still time. What are we doing here, Don? Like it didn't feel like he gave the fan base anything to latch onto that wasn't a negative side of things. There was no hope given to the Flames, the Flame fan base, and things like that. And a lot of people are trying to say that, well, what else is Maloney supposed to say? I'm like, well, you can say a whole lot more by saying a whole lot less with how you present your message. So I think the presentation from Don Maloney was very poor. And I think it was tone deaf a lot. And he said a lot without giving us anything, and then everyone was hearing what he was saying. And it was the same message we saw before as well, where there's still time. We still believe in this group. We have a good group of guys in the room, this and that. And there's still, I just don't understand what his purpose was to being in that interview and to give us the words that he gave us and how he presented the message, because it really felt tone deaf, Robert, if I'm going to be honest. It really felt like he didn't care about anything other than let's just get the message out there that the Flames are still in this. And I disagree that they're still in this. We've had that conversation before, and I just don't understand his point of coming to the media there and just telling everybody that hey, things are fine here. Like we're off to a struggling start. We need to be better, and we're going to be better. Okay, but Don, there was nothing for the fan base to like really grab hold of. Be like, yes, we're excited about the direction of this team. Yes, we understand this message from Don. We think Craig Conroy's plan is awesome. And latching onto it, because the fan base on social media was all about rebuilding. And wait a minute, what are we talking about? We need to bottom out. We need a high-end skill. We don't have it here. Why is Maloney talking like the playoffs are just 2 or 3 games away? So for me, the first point I want to bring out here is it really just felt tone deaf, his entire message. We can dive into specifics in a minute here, but it just overall, the tone deaf message for me, Robert, I didn't like it, and I don't understand the point of that interview if that was the message he was trying to get out. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, he totally came across as delusional throughout that interview. He really did. And like I don't like calling somebody delusional. I don't like taking personal shots at somebody like that, but that's what it came across as. It really did. To me, it seems like Don Maloney doesn't truly understand the position that the Calgary Flames are in. I genuinely think the fans know more about what's going on with this team and the future of this team than Don Maloney does, and that is terrifying for Calgary Flames fans. This is the president of hockey operations. This is the guy who's leading the charge. This is the guy who's setting the direction of the team. And he comes out into the media and spews a bunch of nonsense to the fan base. All stuff that people can see through. Calgary Flames fans are very smart. This is a smart, sophisticated hockey market. And Don Maloney's treating us like children. Like we don't know what we're talking about. Like everything that we see as fans and media and people covering the team, that what we're seeing is not reality. And Don is living in reality. You know, he kept referring to being in fantasy land when it comes to drafting in the top 3 and getting these first overall picks. He's the one that's in fantasy land right now. It's totally mind numbing when you read that kind of stuff. And one of my favorite things was in the first Eric Francis article. He starts off his article here, and I think it was literally perfect. He goes, "The Calgary Flames aren't willing to throw in the towel, nor are they willing to contemplate the possibility of leaning into what many consider to be a lost season by tanking, even though only one team in the last 55 years has bounced back to reach the playoffs after being 10 points out through their first 22 games. Flames president of hockey operations, Don Maloney, says the club's vision remains the same." I love that. I think that is hilarious. Only one team in the last 55 years has bounced back to reach the playoffs after being down 10 points through their first 22 games. And yet Don Maloney comes out and doubles down on the situation they're in. It's totally wild. Absolutely wild. He's out of touch. He's out of touch with what's going on at the team. He's out of touch with the fan base. And I watch those interviews and I read the transcript and I think, like, this is the guy leading us to what's hopefully going to be the next successful era of Calgary Flames hockey. Oh man, like I'm worried. I'm worried with this guy in charge. I really am.
It's interesting though, like the fan base it's clearly out there and people are talking about it. There's even articles from well-known long-term broadcasters in Calgary talking about rebuilding. You get articles from Eric Francis stating why the Flames should rebuild. So it's not just a topic that the fans are wanting about, and it's not just Team Tank trying to get louder and louder and louder. It's a message that fans have really come and said, we realize what we are as a franchise. And unfortunately, the vision that Brad Treliving had never came around. There was a mess left for Craig Conroy, and now Conroy's trying to put together his vision and clean up a mess. And to do that, you're going to fall down in the standings. And that's a great opportunity while you're trying to clean up and kind of switch gears like the Flames organization should be doing, and what Conroy has looked like he is actually doing, is to bottom out and to get those high-end draft picks and those high-end skill guys into your organization to help with what you have already drafted and your young players and like that. And I know Don Maloney's not going to come out in that interview and say, yeah, we're aiming for 32. We got a tank because it's Team McKenna or nothing. Like, I know he's not going to say that. This is not his job. And frankly, that'd be incredibly weird if the general manager did say that, or high-end managers did say that type of thing. But at the same time, the message he could have brought to the thing, and I think Rhett on Barnburner said it really well, and it was just like, all you got to do is come out here and tell the folks, like, it's a tough situation, and we may have to look at switching gears. It's as simple as that. That calms the whole entire fan base down. We have to look at going in a different direction. It's clearly not working. And people are coming back at me saying, well, what message does that send to the players? Do you think these players are that dumb? They know what's happening here. They know the business side of this. And so the messaging to the players is, hey, we're not good enough. We're 32nd in the league. So, yeah, there's going to be changes. What 32nd team in the league doesn't think about making changes? They all do in every sports league you're in. we finished dead last or bottom 5. We need to make changes because obviously and clearly we're not where we should be. And then you have Don Maloney come out with that interview, and he starts talking about how they just need to start playing better, and they're still in the mix, and they're right back there, and we gotta like. It just feels the complete opposite of what the fans want, what the media, a lot of the media are saying, and frankly, what the message is coming from people at the Saddle Dome and stuff. It's including Craig Conroy. They're working towards rebuilding this organization because this isn't a good hockey team. It isn't, despite the recent success in the last few games here. This isn't a good hockey team. It's a great group of guys, but do you want a great group of guys that lose together, or do you want a good hockey team that can win? And it's frustrating to hear this message because we've heard it before. And we've heard it before from multiple general managers. Jay Fisher was talking about being intellectually honest with the organization as he was trying to build. Brad Treliving talked about making the playoffs, and that was the mandate. And now Craig Conroy, what is his mandate? And it really feels like the mandate is turn this around and get us into the playoffs. And I just don't think it's smart right at this moment.
No, I don't think it is either. And another thing for me that kind of stood out from Maloney is I don't think he understands just like how little success the Flames have had in the playoffs since they won the Cup in 1989. And he was getting very defensive in those interviews and in Eric Francis' article there. You know, he's saying it's only 20 games. Like, I don't know why everybody's freaking out. It's only 20 games. We have lots of time left. Don, it's not about 20 games. It's not about this season. It's literally goes back to 1990. I always bring up this stat, but since 1990, since the Flames won the Stanley Cup, so it's been 35 coming up on 36 years, they've made it past Game 5 of Round 2 one time in 35 years. So this isn't a 20 games issue. This is not a 2025-26 season issue. This is an issue that dates back 35 goddamn years. This has literally been one of the least successful franchises from a playoff perspective in North American pro sports. Like, not just the NHL, North American pro sports. They've been that bad. So when Maloney comes out and says, "Oh, it's only 20 games," like, give us time. It's not 20 games. It's 35 years. I don't understand how he doesn't get that. You're the president of the team. You're supposed to have your finger on the pulse of the fan base and of the history of the organization. And he doesn't. He's, once again, it comes back to that word. He's delusional. And like he genuinely thinks that this is a playoff team. You know, Eric Francis asked him, like, can you put your finger on why the Flames have gotten off to such a bad start this year? He's like, oh, I really don't know why. Well, if you go back and look last year, your season was saved by Dustin Wolf, a rookie goaltender stepping up and playing incredible. Basically, every other aspect of your team was not good. And once again, I'll go back to another stat of mine. For 75% of last season, November 1st to March 1st, the Calgary Flames were dead last in goals scored by 15. You know, the 31st place team was Nashville, and Nashville had scored 15 more goals than them over that time. So it's basically the same team as last year, just you're not getting quite as many saves, and you didn't get off to a good start. So once again, it's delusional. It's like he looked at last season and thought, this is a really good team. And last year they maxed out this group. That is what the maxed out version of the Calgary Flames looks like. It's 96 points and it wasn't good enough to make the playoffs. And he continues to go back to that. It's just, it makes you want to smash your head against the wall thinking that this is the guy who's leading the charge for this organization. And another frustrating thing is that they're close. Like they're not starting from scratch. He keeps saying,
yes.
He keeps saying, you know, fans want to burn everything to the ground. Well, that's not necessarily true. We're literally talking about trading 3 veteran players. So there's that aspect to it. But then he's also saying, you know, we don't want to enter a 10-year rebuild. Well, you're not going to, because you're actually off to a decent start thanks to Craig Conroy, not you, Don Maloney, but Craig Conroy for refilling the prospect cupboards. They have a good base to build off of. They're missing the 1 or 2 elite pieces that you essentially have to draft in the top 10 and more realistically in the top 5. And they refuse to buy into that and to embrace it. Every other good team does this. So why do you think that you're smarter than everybody? That's another thing that pisses me off. This Flames organization, Don Maloney thinks that he is so smart that he can go about building a Stanley Cup contender without having to bottom out. And I don't know if I see that happening. So yeah, there's so much here that I just cannot stand. And I think other Flames fans would agree. I know you agree too, right?
Yeah, like he's talking about how this team it got off to a slow start, but he believes in this group. It took them 7 games to get to 32nd spot. 7 games into the season, they were in 32nd spot. They hit game 24 in Vancouver on Sunday night. With that victory, they moved 3 points up on 32nd. So
hell yeah!
So it took
we're back,
them,
baby.
It took them. Oh boy, it took them double-digit games to even climb up 1 spot in the standings.
Yeah, like to a 3-game win streak. Like
it took it took Vancouver, and it took beating the team right in front of you, one of the teams right in front of you, to get up there as well. So to think that this team will just turn it around, get on a hot streak, and make the playoffs, 1, is delusional. 2, it's disrespectful for the other teams that have gotten off to much better starts than the Flames. Last year, we praised our start and how that helped propel them to almost make the playoffs. So we got to give that same credit to these other teams like the Jets and the Blackhawks in the other division, and the way Anaheim's got off to a good start, and Vegas is off to a good start, and Seattle. Those teams deserve the credit for getting off to the starts they did get off to. So to chase those teams down when you were so far back, it's brain dead to me. And Don Maloney talking about how this team is right there, and that he knows that the fans are like out there feeling the narrative, like he knows what the narrative is, and then comes out, and this is a direct quote from that Eric Francis article. Don Maloney literally says, if we could trade somebody and get a top 3 pick or a premier prospect, there's no restrictions on us making a deal. Okay, so you're willing to make these trades to get top-end guys, but you're not willing to make trades to put yourself in a spot to draft these guys? May I ask what the difference is, Don, other than you're spending on assets for nothing? So it's his message isn't even one direction. It's one direction that branches out to a bunch of different weirdly stated thoughts. And it's like, did you think about what you were going to say before you thought it? Because you're not making any sense here. You can, on one hand, think this group is, 1 or 2 really good game streaks away from making the playoffs, to saying, hey, we'll trade guys for top end or top 3 draft picks, but we can't bottom out to draft these draft picks. That's 3 messages in one. That's 3 directions in one, Don. What are we doing here? So I understand the frustration for the fans of really not buying what Don Maloney was selling, to be upset about what he was saying, because it feels directionless, and that's not great when it comes from the head of your organization, straight from the owner, that they really don't have it feels like they don't have a pulse on what's best for the organization and what's best for the fans. And when you lose that touch, you end up having a Buffalo Sabres type of organization, a New York Jets type of organization, where you're just getting in your way all the time from actually building something. And it really takes the wind out of the sail of your general manager. What's Craig Conroy supposed to think after that message? Like, what's he really supposed to think sitting in his office, watching that interview from Don Maloney and thinking, well, hold on. I've tore it down. I've rebuilt it. I was forced to trade 7 big UFAs over the last couple of seasons. I've had to make decisions on our captain. I've had to make decisions on this and that way. And I had to go into this draft with all these draft picks. But now the message is we're just right around the corner from being competitive again. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, John, I'd push back on you there a little bit. You say they don't have a plan. They do have a plan. They want to be Dallas. Yeah. Dallas.
Yeah, fair enough.
The Dallas Stars. You want to be one of the best run organizations in hockey. You want to have the best GM. You want to have the best scouting staff. And that's the plan. We're gonna have a draft class where we get Miro Heiskanen, Jason Robertson, and Jake Ottinger. Our goal is to be the best drafting team in the NHL, and our goal is to have the best draft class in modern NHL history. That's the goal. it's completely far-fetched. It's totally ridiculous.
And Robert, do you know what else Dallas does though? They get out of the way of the general manager, let him do the damn job.
Tom Ghilardi does not get all that involved in hockey decisions. You're bang on.
They let Jim Nill go out there and make these trades. Never in a million years would I think the Flames would make a Mikko Rantanen style trade. Never. But Jim Nill was given the autonomy to do that because it was best for his organization. Yes, he drafts well. Yes, he has his good re-signings. Jim Nill does a lot of really good work for the Dallas Stars. That's why he's won GM of the year. It's because he's allowed to do the job. So if you don't trust your general manager to do the job, get a general manager you can trust to do the job, or just get out of the way and let him finish. Let him finish the task at hand.
You know, another scary thing that I don't think's getting a lot of discussion in this Don Maloney interview is he has a line here where he's talking about assessing the job Craig Conroy's done. And he goes, I think the first year was very difficult, the number of good players we had at the end of their contracts. And then he says, a couple of those guys would probably help us right now, but we got through that. And to me, that says, from Don Maloney's perspective, we should have re-signed those guys. We should have re-signed Elias Lindholm. We should have re-signed Noah Hannafin, Chris Tanev, Tyler Toffoli. That core should still be here. That scares the living crap out of me, hearing that type of thing, because now that tells me, he's going to want to hold on to Nazem Kadri. He's going to want to hold on to Blake Coleman. He's going to seriously look at re-signing Rasmus Andersson. That's what that kind of line tells me. That's another thing that scares the hell out of me when it comes to this guy. Like, Elliot Friedman's been reporting that when Anderson came back to training camp this year, that he's been kind of more open to the idea of wanting to stay in Calgary. Mm-hmm. And then you see Maloney's comments about Rasmus Anderson and saying that they really want to get him signed, and they need to obviously come to an agreement, but like they're super interested in keeping him. It's with where you're at in your winning cycle, you're not even close to winning, and you want to bring back a 30-year-old defenseman who's going to be on the decline. Like that's crazy too. And one more thing I'll point out, but before I get back to you here, is just, and I would like to get your thoughts on this. They put way too much stock into this whole culture thing. Like Don keeps alluding to culture. Like we can't bottom out. We can't be picking in the top 5 because that's not going to lead us to a winning culture. You don't have a winning culture right now. What are you talking about, dude? You missed the playoffs 3 years in a row with this group. You're at the bottom of the NHL standings right now. There's no hope in winning with this group. This is not a winning environment. What in the hell is he talking about? And the only way to become that winning environment is by acquiring elite talent. And you have to do that at the top of the draft. It's like, again, this guy is insane. How is this guy running an NHL team saying stuff like this? Like, if he's saying this kind of stuff and the Flames are a legit playoff team, and then they got off to a bad start like the Oilers or the Maple Leafs, okay, sure, I would understand that. But it's so clear to everybody in the hockey world that you're not a good team. And this is not a good core group of players. This is not a team that's going to win you a Stanley Cup. So, why do you keep going back to this? We're scared to bottom out and draft in the top 3. And we have this incredible culture in Calgary. Do you? Do you have an incredible winning culture in this city? I don't think you do. So why do you keep putting so much stock into it? Like, that's another thing that just drives me absolutely insane when I listen to this guy.
I used to be a really big culture type of guy, a guy who liked to talk about, hey, a good culture in the room. I've learned that's a bunch of crap. Because if you go back and you look at teams that are successful, they all have great cultures. And teams that are bottoming out or aren't very good, oh, they got a bad room, bad culture. We have it backwards. Winning is good culture. Losing is bad culture.
Exactly.
That's what it breeds. So we have good culture. It's not because Nazem Kadri comes in the room with coffee in the morning for the boys. It's not because Mackenzie Weegar has the rookies over for a barbecue at his house to welcome them to the league and the team. That stuff's great, and you need that kind of stuff. That's called leadership. All right, that's called leadership. Culture is the result of what you've been doing. You don't have a culture. it means you're not winning. It means you're not a successful organization. It means you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. The reason there was a bunch of culture talk last year at the second half of the season is because the Flames are making a massive playoff push. They were playing well. They came together as a group and they were winning games. That's a healthy, happy dressing room when you're winning hockey games. So of course, you look at teams that are struggling, they're not going to be as jubilant and things, and they're not going to be as high end. So I think this culture talk is manager speak. I really think it is. I think it's just manager speak, manager words, because you need to have a winning locker room, a winning culture to have good culture, in my opinion. So I don't buy into this talk about they have such a great culture. If they had such a great culture and all these guys were buddies and playing well together, then we'd see better results. We really would. We just would, because they would have the on-ice chemistry. You wouldn't be seeing guys moved all over the rink. Huska would love these guys. They would all love Huska. They'd all be one big happy family. I'm not saying that they fight in the room at all, but what happens in your room will come out on the ice. It's just how it is. That's how humans are. If you work at an organization where everyone's grouchy all the time, you're going to have a grouchy work environment. That's just how it is. That's human nature. So this culture talk needs to stop, because that shouldn't be the focal point of how you run an organization. You need to build a group that can win together, bond together, and play well together. And the way that Don Maloney's gone about talking about all this culture stuff, he thinks that's the only thing that matters. Well, Don, that's the result of what you're doing. You have it backwards, sir, in my opinion, and you're going about it the wrong way. And in order to get a winning room and people in your dressing room that want to be there, you've got to build it. And the Flames have always chased it. They chased it after the 2015 season. They chased it after the 04 run, and it doesn't work. I've had this conversation, this rant on my old podcast, right? I ranted for like an hour on that exact topic. Stop chasing things and start building it. Because when you build things, it's more sustainable and it draws the good people into the organization. It draws people that want to play there. It draws the fans to the building because they want to be part of it. It draws the sponsorships if you want to talk about money. It draws a lot of things. And at the end of the day, all of that results in money in Murray Edwards' pockets. So I don't understand such a short vision that it seems that the ownership and Don Maloney have of, we need this season to be successful. Why? Just why? Take a step back, rebuild this thing, and next time Don Maloney does an interview, why don't we put a little bit of thought into these interviews? Because it felt like as he was answering these questions, he was almost put off by some of the questions asked him. And it was almost like he wanted to dismiss the fans' view on things. And that's why it feels so, I don't remember what the word to say there.
Infuriating.
Yeah, infuriating is a great word. Like fans, without fans, Don, you don't have an organization. You just don't. Because there's no money to run the organization. That's just how sports works. And so I understand that they want to be a successful franchise. They want to make the playoffs. They want to make the money. They're in business. I get all of that. Well, then do it the right way.
Yeah.
Do it the right way. Name an organization that is successful in sports that did not do it the right way.
Yeah, the way you make money in sports is by putting a good product on the ice and winning. That's how you make money, not just staying in the middle and make the playoffs one year and losing 5 games and then miss and then make and then miss and then make and then miss. Never get to the second round. Never get past game 5 of round 2. That's not how you make money. That's like a funny thing. Like I always hear people talk about Murray just wants his playoff revenue and Murray, all he cares about is the bottom line. I don't even know if that's true, because the way that he's led this organization, basically since he's been a part of it since 1994, the team has had no success. How are you supposed to make money when you go on one Stanley Cup run since 1994 when Murray Edwards bought into the team? It's crazy. And I like what you said there about building it properly. And I was listening to In the Dome. The In the Dome guys were on Afterburner after Saturday's game. And Jordan from In the Dome said he's like, it's basically a 1-year plan every year. Like there is no long-term established plan in place that this team is sticking to. It's It's we're going to go year by year. And, if we have a really good year, then we'll invest and we'll acquire Dougie Hamilton and we'll acquire Michael Frolik. But then if we have a bad year, well, then I guess we'll trade out some guys in Yuri Hoodler and Chris Russell. But then we have a good year and we're going to invest in a guy like Travis Hamonic. But then we have a bad year and we're going to get rid of some contracts. It's just like there's no plan. Like they literally go year by year and they just say to themselves, well, I guess like, what do we need this year? And well, I mean, we had 96 points last year. Like, let's give this group another try. And instead of being proactive and moving out assets and actually establishing a new legitimate core that can win you Stanley Cup, they're just kind of like humming and hawing and we'll go year by year. We'll see what happens. Like that's the stuff that drives people absolutely up the wall. Mm-hmm. Do you think that this team is in danger of apathy and losing, a portion of the fan base? Just yes, with the direction they're going and the roster they have and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, because I've already seen it.
I've seen it like with Flames Nation. Like I've seen it with our social media numbers. Like the social media numbers are starting to go down because I don't think people care.
There's been a few people that on social media that I've talked to. They're like, "Well, I'm not renewing my season tickets, or I have no desire to go to a home game this year." There was one Flame fan account out there that I'm sure a lot of people know. I won't name it here. They're like, I go to 8 to 10 games a year. I have no desire.
Mm-hmm.
I have no desire. And it's not because they don't like the team. It's not because they don't like some of the players. Why would I go watch mediocrity that they're trying to preach to me and spend my money on something that I know isn't going to go anywhere or do anything? Like it's an investment. Like, People want to spend money at a rink and they want to buy a jersey and they want to be part of something great and they want something to cheer for. And when you're consistently burning through head coaches and restarting and veterans in, veterans out, the highest they've picked, outside of Kachuk and Bennett, like they don't pick high, like, and those were, they kind of fell into those draft picks. It's like, I like what he said there. It's directionless. It's a year-to-year plan. It feels directionless. And you brought in Craig Conroy after Brad Treliving left, and Craig Conroy was given this incredible mess to clean up, fighting against the narrative of people wanting to be in Calgary, people wanting to be traded, 7 UFAs, who's that, what's happening with this and that. And he goes through and he deals with it the first year and he cleans up that mess. And the second year he comes in here and the team gets off to a really good start and there's still talks of trades and he calms those talks down and he once again has a really good draft and the team fights its way through in another, like, are you just going to throw all that work away now because you want to make the playoffs next year? Or you still think that this year playoffs are on the table? Like, you're just starting over again. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So why are you not building something? Why do you not want to build a good business foundation to your organization and allow your fans to be happy with it? Because what you're going to see, and like you've seen on social media there, Robert, less people are going to pay attention. Less people are going to care. Less people are going to want to spend the money, and eventually the dome's going to be half empty again. So what is that new building going to look like if everyone's not even going to the dome anymore?
Would you rather go into the new building watching a guy like Gavin McKenna or Keaton Verhoff and then another top 3, top 5 pick in the 2027 draft, or would you rather go in watching this team?
Like, there's a very real world out there where Rasmus Andersson gets his 8-year contract with the Flames. This summer, they go off and they blow their brains off on a prospect or not prospect, veteran or two in free agency, with the mindset of, we got to make the playoffs in the last couple of years of the dome, so we're good for the first year in the new building. There's a very real possibility based on the past behavior of this owner and his mandates that actually happens. And that right there is a scary thought. And I think if that does happen, that new building ain't going to fill up.
I don't see why fans would want to spend, $150 to sit in the upper deck to watch what we're getting put on the ice right now. And it's not an entertaining brand of hockey. This, like the Flames this season, they played well over the weekend. I actually thought their games against Dallas and Vancouver were pretty entertaining. Outside of that, they don't play entertaining hockey at all. So it's you're going to watch a defensive slugfest, and you're going to watch a bunch of veteran players who aren't really going to be part of this team in 3 to 5 years. And you're not seeing any younger guys come up right now. It's just, yeah, it's frustrating. And like I talk about losing fans. The people I'm most worried about when it comes to this team is just like the next generation of hockey fans. So I'll say that's like, let's call it ages 8 through 18, like just the young hockey fan. Because, it's not 1994 anymore. Like, it's not like when I was a kid when literally the only option to watch hockey was the Calgary Flames. Like, you're living in Calgary, your only option is to watch the Flames outside of Hockey Night in Canada, where you get to watch, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, now it's so easy for kids to access hockey outside of their home market. And I think younger players and like younger minor hockey players and younger hockey fans, they kind of fixate to not only good teams, but they also fixate to superstars. And, Calgary doesn't have that. Sure, they have Dustin Wolf, who's a really nice player, and I think kids like Dustin Wolf, but there's no Connor McDavid, there's no Nathan McKinnon, there's no Celebrini, there's no Bedard. Like, those are the types of players that kids like really kind of attach themselves to, and they follow them on social media and they watch their highlights all the time on their phones, and they can access their games easily on like a Sportsnet Plus. What young person, what young kid wants to cheer for the Flames right now?
Yeah, there's no one here. Like, how often do you see it when you go to the Dome with a visiting team? How many Crosby jerseys are in that crowd when he comes through? How many McKinnon jerseys are in the crowd?
McDavid,
if
I see more McDavid and Oilers jerseys in Calgary than I do Flames jerseys.
Like, if the Flames do what we've seen in the past and they go sign the free agents, like, are kids going to latch on to Charlie Coyle or Gabriel Pajot,
Charlie Coyle,
and Alex Wenberg, Christian Dvorak, Jaden Schwartz, like Nick Schmaltz, Anders Lee? Like, which one of these guys that the Flames will sign in the offseason? Michael Bunting, maybe? Jason Dickinson? Like, these are your free agents out there, and you have no one in-house. Maybe Parekh might be a guy that kids will latch on to a little bit. Yeah. Maybe Dustin Wolf, but there's no Jerome McGinley. Like, that's like, I grew up with Joe Nieuwendyk as one of the big names. Joe Nieuwendyk and Al McInnes. You were part of Jerome McGinley and then into Johnny Gaudreau. There were superstars that kids would latch onto and be excited for. And then the adults, I'm 41 years old, I get excited to watch kids. I got excited when Gaudreau scored that goal against Dallas in the playoffs a few years ago. Like, we still get excited to watch those type of players. So you look into your inner child and you look at this roster, who are you latching on to? As much as I love Mackenzie Weegar and what he brings, or I like Connor Zary and what he potentially could be for this organization, I like Jonathan Huber. These aren't guys that are going to bring you out of your chair. These aren't guys that young kids are going to latch onto like, I want to be Mackenzie Weegar. That doesn't happen. When you play out in street hockey, you want to be the best of the best. You want someone to latch onto. And so to go down the road of what Don Maloney is hinting at and just signing guys and bringing back Rasmus Anderson and trying to make the playoffs next year, sure, you might make the playoffs. Okay, good on you. But you're not bringing in your fans. You're not giving them anything to be excited about. Where on the flip side, how awesome would it be to have Gavin McKenna here? Or in a couple seasons, Alain Dupont. Those are young, exciting prospects that will bring you out of your seat. Go look at the San Jose Shark game. How many Celebrini jerseys are in that crowd already? Because it's someone to latch on to. It's something to be excited about. And excited about the future. The Flames don't have an exciting future if they just continually go to the mediocrity route. They continue to do what they've always done, and that's sign the big name free agent. I don't know about you, but I'm going to get ready to get my Alexander Kerfoot jersey ordered the second they sign him on July 1st. Like, what are we doing? Like, Don, what are we doing here?
I almost feel like we might be entering a bit of a... Okay, so let me back this up a little bit. You made a really good point there. Basically, throughout the entire franchise history, there's been exciting players in this organization, whether it was Kent Nielsen back in the early 1980s, and then it got onto the cup team with so many superstar players. And then, you transition to Theo Fleury. And then, but then they're kind of hit that 1996 to 2003 period where it went dead. You know, the building was literally half full. Like, I remember going to games as a kid, you know, it was ugly. But then you kind of had it saved by the cup run and Jerome McGinley, Mika Kiprusoff. And then you had Dion Phaneuf. And then you had Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan and Matthew Tkachuk and Mark Giordano and that core. It's like there's always, outside of like 96 to 03, there's always been like players that you could kind of attach yourself to. And I'm almost wondering if we're kind of entering that type of period here in Flames history where there's not a lot of star players. Like you said, yes, you have Dustin Wolf, and hopefully Zane Parekh turns into a star, but I don't think they're the super marketable Connor McDavids of the world right now. Are they entering a period where it's going to be like a Young Guns 2.0 where sure, you're bringing in some young players, but they're not superstars. You know, you're bringing in Derek Morris. You're bringing Dean McCammons of the world. You're not really bringing in the superstar player. And that's what really worries me. I almost wonder if you are going to lose a generation of fans, because from 96 to 03, it was trending in the direction that the Flames might have to leave Calgary. That's how bad it got. And in the run to the Stanley Cup, and Jerome McGinley and Mika Kiprusoff saved the franchise, and Daryl Sutter. I'll throw Daryl Sutter in there too. It saved the team. Had they not gone on that cup run, I wonder if Calgary's even has an NHL franchise today.
It'd be in Houston. People make fun of Eric Francis' article on that, but that was a real thing.
I think it was. And I'm not saying the Flames are going to relocate, because they're not, because they have a 35-year agreement with the new building in place. All I'm saying is I'm wondering if we're going to get to a point where the popularity of the team is so low that we're seeing 13,000 people in the building because they're just not excited about the present and they're not excited about the future, which is the direction Don Maloney's taking this team.
It's going to be like that football stadium in the NFL in Los Angeles, where the Chargers play there, but the crowd is not Charger fans. The crowd
it's all
is
Oiler fans, it's Canuck fans, and it's fans. Yeah,
and that could be very, very real in the new building, where you're half Flame fans because people want to go see hockey, and that's where they live. And people are seeing their team as they come through Calgary. The Boston fans, the Montreal fans, even the Wild fans, the Predator fans, whatever.
Dude, there were a lot of Star fans at the Dome on Saturday.
Tons.
There was a lot of green jerseys. I was surprised.
Well, and on that point, Miro Heiskanen's there. Robertson's a great player. Rantanen's a great player. Otter's a great goaltender. There's players there to latch onto, right? Kids
Duchesne.
like that kind of stuff. So it's like, that's a great point by you. Like, there is a real possibility that you go into the new building and you're going to sell the first little bit because it's new, it's exciting, and people like that kind of thing. But 2030, that building probably could be half empty if you're not doing things properly the right way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 2029, you're struggling. You're having big ticket drives because you don't have any season ticket sales. Like, it should be a big concern of this organization and the owner that, hey, maybe we should listen to the fans a little bit here. You can't let the fans dictate everything you do, but when it's such a big message of we don't want this, we want to see something exciting. We need something new to latch onto. We need another Gaudreau type of player. We need a Jerome McGinley to latch onto. We need a Doug Gilmour. We need something that's going to excite us and bring us to the rink. I'm sorry, and all due respect to the player, because I like the player, Rasmus Andersson doesn't do that for me. Joe Farabee doesn't do that for me.
No, Huberdeau, Kadri.
Michael Backlund's not doing that for me.
Nice players, but they're not the needle movers.
Exactly. And so this rebuild isn't just because we want to have Team Tank take over and let them get their way. No. We realize as a fan base on a whole, and I know it's not everybody, but I would say probably close to 90% of this fan base would like to see a couple of young, exciting prospects added to this group. And the way to do that is to bottom out. And so take the cues from what you're seeing on the ice. Take this opportunity over the next 2, 3, maybe 4, depending how it works out, to build something and build a foundation. Get those prospects, add them to what you already have. They have a really good cupboard of prospects coming. And this doesn't have to be a 9-10 year plan. This could be a 3 or 4 year turnaround. This could be what you actually refer to as a retool. You're just grabbing a couple extra prospects into this group, and that's going to help everything. It's going to help your on ice product. It's going to help your sales tickets. It's going to help the new building. It's going to help you exit the old building with positive vibes. It's going to help you make the playoffs down the road. It's going to give you the revenue, and it's going to make it a big, healthy franchise. Unless you re-sign Randerson and you go sign your Christian Dvorak and you go the other direction, and then you're just doing 2006 to 2013 all over again.
Yeah, and like another thing is, you know, when I talk about young people choosing a favorite hockey team, like it's not cool to be a Calgary Flames fan right now.
No,
like it's
I get
really
made fun
not.
of. I'm 41 and I get made fun of still.
Yeah, like I'll like talk to new people, introduce myself, and you know you're chatting, and then maybe you start talking a little bit of sports. You'll ask, you know, who's your favorite team, and I'll be like, well, I'm a Flames fan. And like, you know, unfortunately, I'm a Flames fan, or someone will chirp you for it. Like, it's not like a cool thing. It's not something that you're like super proud of right now. Whereas in that Gaudreau era, I think you were, because you did have those superstar players. Yes, you didn't have the ultimate playoff success, but at least you had those stars in that core group that gave you a chance. You know, I don't really see that right now. Yes, I think Wolf is a legit number one goalie, probably top 15 starter for the next 7 years. That's great. You're hoping Zane Parekh becomes a first pair defenseman, but you know, is Reshny going to be a point per game guy? Is Gridden going to be a point per game guy? I don't know if I see that ceiling for them. I think they'd be really good players, but once again, are they needle movers? Are they guys you want to market? Are they guys that's gonna inspire kids to go out and start playing hockey? And are they going to be, you know, top selling jerseys around the league? I don't think so. Not right now. That's why the next 2-3 drafts here are so important to find that difference maker. But if they continue to want to push to get into the playoffs, then you're never going to find that guy unless you get incredibly lucky. How many true like superstar elite players are there that weren't picked in the top 5 or top 10 of the draft? Like there's Kaprizov. There was Gaudreau in the 4th round. Kucherov in the 2nd.
Like non-first round people?
Yeah, non-top 10.
Non-top 10.
You know, Bergeron for a while.
Yeah, Bergeron.
Keith.
Marchand.
Like there's not that many. And we're going back to like 2010 here. We're going back like 15 years. So it's so backwards. It really is.
And like, you need your Reshnys, you need your Griddens, you need those guys. Those are great supplementary pieces to go along with your superstars. Like, they really are. Like, and so you need them. So you take your 2nd round draft picks and you're excited for them and you're excited for your 4th rounders. But you need your elite talent to lead that group. Like, I'll go back to San Jose. I always use the example of San Jose, so I'll keep going with it. They had Wenberg there. They had William Eklund was there. They signed to Foley. Like, they have some really good supplementary pieces. And then they added in their Celebrinis and their Will Smiths and their Michael Misa and their Sam Dickinson. And now they're an exciting young team to build around. They're exciting to watch. They're headed in a direction. And the fans have latched on to what Celebrini is and what Will Smith is. And they enjoy watching that team. And that's a really good barn right now. So you need to have all those pieces, but you need to have that high-end skill to bring it all together, and you need those players because that's how you're going to be successful. You don't win a Stanley Cup without them unless you're St. Louis and you catch an unbelievable run and somehow Jordan Binnington becomes Dominic Hasek for 4 months. Like, there's just no way to winning a Stanley Cup, to having the playoff success without going through the process. And for everyone who's going to give me Buffalo as an example, fine. But that's just incompetence, in my opinion. I'll give you San Jose and Anaheim, and I'll give you Los Angeles, and I'll give you Montreal. I'll give you Colorado. I'll give you Dallas. I'll give you Minnesota. I'll give you a bunch of teams that have bottomed out. They've got their guys in their building, or they're on their way up, or they have been on the way up. It's the right way to do it, man. It just really, really is. And so that interview from Don Maloney really felt tone deaf, and it really goes kind of against what a lot of Flame fans are wanting from the ownership group, and to just allow Craig Conroy to to finish this vision he has. He started with a massive mess. Let him finish it, man. Let him finish it.
I'm just gonna make one last point here.
Yeah, go ahead.
And this is so backwards, but this is what's gonna need to happen in order for the Flames to go in the direction the fans want. The players are gonna need to save the organization from themselves again.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have to be another Lindholm, Hanifin, Tanev, Markstrom, Toffoli thing where they all say, I don't want to be here anymore. That's the only way that the Flames are going to be able to get the assets necessary to help them build for the future for some of these veteran players, because we know they're not going to be proactive. They're not going to be smart enough to do it themselves. The players are going to have to do it for them. Kadri, Coleman, and Anderson are going to need to make it abundantly clear to the management group that they're not going to want to play here long term. That's literally the only way this team will ever get into a rebuild, which is very frustrating because the Flames should be forward thinking enough to do this already, but they won't. We all know they won't, and now it's gonna be on the players again. And how shitty is that from a fan perspective? From the fans, who want this team to rebuild, they're now hoping that guys like Coleman and Kadri go to the team and say, we don't want to be here anymore. How sad is that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's what's going to have to happen in order for this organization to actually, take their asset management seriously and build for the future. It's going to have to come down to the players again, not management, because they're not forward thinking and they're not proactive. They're always reactionary, and it's going to have to happen again.
Well, we've heard about that. A lot of people know who Pat Steinberg is in the Fan 960. He's very adamant in saying that. He said it more than once on his radio show, where a trade for Nazem Kadri now is going to have to come from the Kadri camp,
which is batshit crazy.
It's
bullshit.
It's backwards. And so that's a guy who's dialed in there. It's a guy who works for the radio station. That's the right holders. That's a guy he's in the know on a lot of things, and he's the one saying that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, well, if that's the reporting that Pat's getting from the organization and from the players or whoever else is giving that to him, like, it's just mind-numbing. Like, it should be the other way around. They should be going to Nazem Kadri and being like, listen, we know you have 17 teams we can trade you to. Any chance there's a specific one or a specific place you want to go if we can find a trade partner? Like, and Kadri, it goes back to what I said earlier, the message to the players. He's not stupid. He knows exactly how this goes and what's going down. And he knows exactly what the business side of it means to everything like that. So, like, it is backwards and it's mind-boggling, and I can't believe we have to do it all over again, Robert.
Like, look how proactive Chicago was. Like, they were trading Kirby Dach for their rebuild. They traded Brandon Hagel. And, like, could you imagine say the Flames had the Kirby Dach at 21 years old and Hagel at 24 or 25? Do you think that they're trading those players? Like, that's how proactive Chicago was. And they flipped Kirby Dach into Frank Nazar, who's going to be the second line center there for the next probably 12 years and is looking like he could be around a point per game player because they're so forward thinking and because they were willing to take the steps necessary to get your Connor Bedards of the world, and that required trading a Kirby Dach. The Flames would never do anything like that. Never in a million years. It just kind of shows you the difference between the two teams.
Yeah, they even went and traded Seth Jones, one of their veterans, who didn't even ask for a trade. They just moved him out.
That's like the Flames trading Mackenzie Weegar. Like, that would never happen.
So we talk about these moves, we talk about the rebuild, we talk about players in and out, we talk about the direction that the franchise should go in, where we think they're going. We talk all about that, and it comes down to one guy for me as well, and that's Craig Conroy. But that guy who started this vision, started what people are going to call a rebuild or a retool or a restructure, a realignment, whatever word you want to use out there. He started this. He started this project a couple years ago to go for Brad Treliving, had all those UFAs to handle. I think he did a masterful job overall, the overall picture. Yes, he missed on Miromanov, but whatever. No general manager goes 100%. He goes into it and he continually pushes on the issue of making sure that the young kids get into the lineup, the youth. He brings in the Hansiks and the Griddens, and he has really good drafts. But now he's without a contract, Robert. He has no say beyond this season if he's not signed. Why no contract for the guy that you're entrusting to make all of these moves the last couple of seasons, to start a vision? Why no contract for him to finish this vision? Or are we all just kind of reading too much into this no contract thing? What do you think? What are your thoughts here?
Well, the Flames, they have their own internal process, right?
Thanks, Don.
They're going to go through their internal process, and we're not going to talk about it, which is, once again, another load of crap. Not I'm gonna try to put out this fire a little bit, because I've heard both Pat Steinberg and Elliot Friedman both come out and say essentially that they would be stunned if Craig Conroy doesn't get an extension. So that tells me that it's probably going to happen. I mean, those are like probably the two most plugged in people with the Flames.
Mm-hmm.
So you hear that and you're like, okay, that does make me feel better. But it is weird. It's totally weird. If the Flames were if they were kind of like in like the position where Treliving was back in 2022 and Conroy didn't have a contract, I would kind of understand it. But because the team is building and because they're about to hopefully embark on a long-term plan, once again, you'd hope that's the case. You'd think you'd want to give the guy in charge of it, a vote of confidence in a contract extension, but it doesn't happen. And honestly, I honestly don't know why. I'm trying to think of a good reason why. The only thing I can think of is that Murray Edwards, this is kind of what he does. And he lets people work on the final year of their contracts without another one in place. And he's kind of cheap. Like that's all I can really think of, because any other excuse or reason as to why Conroy doesn't have a deal right now does not make sense to me. Unless Conroy's having second thoughts. But once again, Steinberg reported that Conroy, he wants to see this through and he really wants a new contract. So I don't even think Conroy's having second guesses about it. But, like, could you imagine working, like, if you're Conroy, you're working for Don Maloney? Like, this is the guy you're reporting to? Like, do you really want to do that? Is ownership giving you, the tools to allow you to be successful? Are they giving you autonomy? That's another question. But yeah, the whole situation is kind of bizarre. And I personally think that he deserves a contract extension. I hope he gets one. But I mean, Christ, who knows with this organization?
It would be incredibly short-sighted of the Flames to not give Craig Conroy another contract. And it doesn't need to be a 5-6 year deal. It could be just say, here's a 3-year deal. Let's see you finish this vision, and give him a short leash to finish the job. And that's fine. It would also be very much a Flames thing to move on from Craig Conroy. It really would. And I think that would be incredibly short-sighted if they do. So I think Craig's earned another contract extension. I think any general manager that gets hired to take on a type of project Conroy was asked to do needs 5-6 years to try to even accomplish part of that process. It's not easy to turn around a franchise. It's not easy when 7 big-named UFAs come to you and want out the door. It's not easy trying to have a Michael Backlund, is he in, is he out? It's not easy dealing with Rasmus Anderson. Are you going to trade him or not? It's not easy having expectations of being a 97-point team and being 32nd in the league. You got to navigate a whole bunch of things if you're Craig Conroy. And if you look at the job that he's done overall, you have to give this guy a passing grade, dealing with all that he's had to deal with. It would be absolutely insanity to let him do all of that work for you and then show him the door after 3 years. It just would be insanity. So I tend to believe Pat Steinberg's reporting, Elliot Friedman's reporting that, that it probably sounds like there's contracts coming for this guy and he deserves it and he's earned it. He's put in a lot of time before being the general manager with this franchise to learn the business side of things. And I think you're going to see some fruits of the labor here from Craig Conroy. And say he doesn't fulfill any plan after another 3 or 4 year contract and you move on, then fine. It is what it is down the road. But for right now, I don't know how you don't let this guy see his plan through, his vision through. And he's done a masterful job. Like he's got a hard job. And a lot of people don't talk about going the other direction with managing, where you got to manage upwards. You got to try to manage Don Maloney and manage the ownership and that kind of thing, and have the plan that is going to get them off your back and allow you to do your job. And so that's not an easy thing to do for anyone who has that type of job where you got to manage upwards and outwards. It's not an easy task to do, and Craig Conroy's done a pretty good job of it. So I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a contract, and it's incredibly short-sighted if he doesn't, in my opinion.
I did I hosted Warmies on Saturday at Barnburner's YouTube channel. Check that out. And Pinder was on with me, and we were chatting about this whole Maloney thing, and Pinder had mentioned that he's heard that there's almost like Jesus Christ, I can't even talk right now. There's a lot of communication between the GM, the president of hockey ops, and ownership, like almost more than what's normally expected in the NHL. So it does sound like Murray is very dialed in with the team. He has to know everything that's going on. And, from Craig's perspective, does that get a little annoying for him? Is he thinking to himself, do I want to deal with this? Like he probably talks to other GMs around the league whose owners are hands off and they get to do what they want and carry out their vision. I don't know if Craig's got that luxury. The last thing I'll say about this whole thing is, I don't know about you, but there should be questions about Don Maloney and his future with the team. People should have the discussion of, should he be replaced? Like, is this the guy you want running your team? You take a look at his track record. He's had little to no success as a manager. And, in fairness to him, the situation in Arizona was a train wreck with the lack of ownership and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, he was dealing with a very difficult situation, but he's never really had any success. He's terrible at communicating. Is this the guy you want running your team that's moving into a new building that you're hoping starts a new era of successful hockey? Like that over the last week here, and even dating back to when Tree left, he gave me zero confidence that he is the right person to get this job done. And I almost wonder if we should be having the discussion, should Don Maloney be replaced either with someone else or let Craig Conroy pull a tree and he's kind of like the main decision maker now. Or like I mentioned a few episodes ago, I think like bringing in a guy like Brendan Shanahan would make a lot of sense for this team. Like, is there a Brendan Shanahan out there that you can bring in to replace Maloney?
Yeah, that's where I kind of go with it, Robert. Does Craig Conroy even need someone above him on the hockey side of things? Does he? Does he truthfully need somebody above him, or can he not answer right to the owner himself? I think he's almost earned that type of title where he gets to kind of do both jobs. Do you need someone above him on the hockey side? I don't know. I don't really know how that works 100%. But it's a fair conversation to have with Don Maloney. What success has he brought to Calgary since being here? Take out his Arizona crap. What success in Calgary has he brought to this organization? Since he's been here, this team has lost player after player because they've requested to be out. This team has one foot in the playoffs, one foot out of the playoffs every other year. So it's not like he's this undeniable executive that's running a really staunch organization that's overly successful. He might be part of the problem. And so I think it's a fair question to ask. Is it time to move on? And is it time for a different voice to maybe push back on the owner a little bit? Is it time for a different voice for Craig Conroy to bounce his ideas off? So it's a very good question from you, Robert.
And like, I'm on his elite prospects page here. Like this is his team staff history. So assistant general manager and general manager of the New York Islanders in the early to mid 1990s when they were the biggest tire fire in professional sports. And then he goes on to the New York Rangers after they won the Stanley Cup. So he becomes a assistant general manager with the Rangers in 1996. The Rangers were not a very good team there for a long time. So basically the entire time he was there with the Rangers, they were not a good team. And then he goes to the Phoenix Coyotes as VP of hockey ops and general manager. And we all know the little success they had. But I mean, I will give him credit. He had the 2 years there where they went on a couple of little playoff runs, 1 year to a Western Conference final. And he did that literally without an owner and only allowed to spend to the bottom of the salary cap. So like you got to give him credit for that. But the rest of his years in Phoenix were not good. And then he comes to Calgary and you just put it out there. They've had really little to no success under him, especially when he took over as president of hockey operations. So it's just like the track record for this guy is not good. He's clearly not a very good communicator. He clearly doesn't have a pulse on the fan base. His vision for the team is completely off. What the hell is he doing running this team? I think there should be serious discussions among the fan base and the media about the idea of replacing him, firing him, and then replacing him with a guy like a real competent guy like a Brendan Shanahan. Because I don't personally do not like the direction Don Maloney is taking this team. I think it's a scary direction he's taking this group.
Yeah, it really is. I got nothing else to bring up on the podcast with Don Maloney or Craig Conroy other than to say go read Robert's article he put out on November 17th about the Craig Conroy extension. I read it again before we've had the show today, so I was up to date on my information. It's a good read. And it kind of puts your mind at ease of what Craig Conroy has done, his vision forward, and why he should have a contract extension. So, Robert, any other thoughts from you on Don Maloney, Craig Conroy, or position of the Flames at the moment?
Nope. I mean, what are we at here? Like an hour and 6 minutes of pure Don Maloney talk. I think that's good enough for today.
There's a lot of discourse out on there on Don Maloney and those thoughts from that interview he put out there, and not a lot of great is coming. I didn't get a lot of positive feedback from that interview, so I think a lot of us are on the same page when it comes to talking about this team, the direction of this team, what we'd like to see, what we have seen, the displeasure with certain members of the organization, and we'll see how that works out. The Flames, we didn't get a chance to talk about it on the podcast today, but the Flames are 4-1-1 in their last 6. They're playing good hockey, and it's unfortunate we almost can't enjoy that because of the situation that's at hand with the ownership and the VP and those guys on the other side of things. And so kind of puts a damper on watching this team battle its way from 32nd to 31st and actually playing a really good hockey game on the weekend because we have Don Maloney putting his big nose in the way. So a little disappointing there.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly, just a little bit of positivity to finish it off. The 5-on-5 play from the Flames has been outstanding.
Awesome.
Like really good lately. The goaltending has been really good lately. Even like their power play is starting to turn on. Matt Coronado has become a true difference maker over the last 3-4 weeks here. Nazem Kadri is starting to pick up more points. Rasmus Anderson's been great. Kevin Ball's been great. Like there is some positivity from an on-ice perspective right now, but we just didn't really have time to get to that. Maybe we'll try to dive into more of that next week.
If Don Maloney can stay off the cameras and from behind the microphones this week, next week's episode will be much more ice center focused. Robert, what's coming up from you on flamesnation.ca, and where can the folks find you and your work?
Yeah, just continuing to cover the games and try to put out a little bit of positive content out there on Flames Nation, and I'll be writing kind of like a weekly column over the next day or two here, so be on the lookout for that. And that's pretty much it.
He is Ring of Fire CGY across social media. I'm Vintage Johnny 84 as well on those same social media profiles. Follow the show as always, Red Mile Rundown, and thank you for making us a part of your podcast rotations. And don't forget, we are now also on Amazon. So if you're a big Amazon person, Amazon Music, we're on there as well now. So like, subscribe, and tell your friends. We will see you next week on the show talking about this very important road trip ahead for the Flames here as they head out to Tampa Bay for a 4-gamer. We'll see you next week on the show, folks. Enjoy the hockey and try to stay positive.